What up, everybody? It's your girl July from Kickback Couture, and today I'm gonna show you an easy way to master your beats and get them as loud as what you hear everywhere else. Alright, let's get straight into it. So I'm gonna show you how to master your beats, why they're so quiet. A lot of times you upload your beat to YouTube or BeatStars or whatever the case, and you play it after or next to somebody else's and it's too quiet. This is the beat we're going to be mastering. You're going to do the bulk of your mastering in the master section unless you find a way that you prefer to do it. So if you have anything in this section right here, this master section, just going to right click it and hit reset device. All right, everything under is going to be your sound effects, and if you don't know how to use Reason or what sound effects are, then you probably won't be using these anyways, so don't worry too much about it. I would say just ignore these, and what we're going to focus on is the master section, which is right here in this area. All right, so if you cannot find the master section for some reason, then just scroll through your rack, and you can use shift, hold down shift and scroll, or use your 2 to 3 fingers depending on how your trackpad is set up to find it. All right, master section is right here in this area on the right. You can kind of use it to drag it along and choose which area you want to focus on. So this is the master section. All right, cool. Now the number one thing you want on your master section in order to make your beat louder is a maximizer or a limiter. This is going to push your mix up louder so that you can hear it more clearly. All right, so if you know what a maximizer is and you know what a limiter is, great. If you don't know how to use it, then we're going to get into that next. We're actually going to use the stock maximizer so that if you don't have what I have, you'll be good no matter what. And we're just going to be super simple, and we'll add on to this from here. All right, so this is the maximizer, this is the limiter, and we'll just name it limiter. Cool. All right. So this is the one that Reason comes with. So we have two little sections on it, kinda. We got a limiter and we have a soft clipper. Okay, so you could just turn everything off if you don't want anything on. So I'm going to play the beat and I'm gonna mess with the knobs and just listen to what it does. We'll start off with the input gain. This is how much volume of the beat we're pushing into the maximizer. So listen to what happens. Gets pretty loud there, right? So you want to make sure you don't have too little of an input gain, and you want to make sure you have too much. Okay, so if you have too little, then the beat will be quiet. But if you need to push more of that beat into the maximizer for a better effect, then you'll push that up more. Now this limiter button is going to turn the limiter on and off. There's a couple ways you can use this rack, and you can use it as a limiter. And the soft clipper, of course, you can use it as a volume knob if you need to, but I would stay away from using it as a volume knob. So what we're going to do is turn on the limiter, and I'll show you how you can use the maximizer as a Brickwall limiter so that your beat isn't clipping ever. Okay, so you're going to turn on the limiter button. You're going to turn on this 4 millisecond look ahead button. Make sure that's on. And you're going to make sure your attack is at fast and your output gain is at 0. So pretty much all we did was make sure we turned on the limiter button, 4 ms look ahead, and the attack, which is right here, is on fast. Now with these buttons enabled, no matter how hard we push this input gain, we won't go past 0 decibels. Our signal will not clip. So this is a hard form of maximizing your track with the limiter. So anything that goes above 0 is going to be hard cut off. And another way we could do this is with the soft clipper. So if we use the soft clipper, and if you're learning something, go ahead and give that like button some love, click on it, stomp on it, smack it in the face, do whatever you need to do to make sure my video gets shown, the love it deserves. All right. The next part of this is the soft clipper. So instead of it being like a hard cutoff and cutting off your beat really hard, the soft clipper will instead soften the peaks, anything that goes above 0, which is where it clips. So we're going to turn on the soft clipper instead of the limiter, And we'll just turn all of this off and listen to what happens when we use the soft clipper instead. Now you might prefer to use a mix of both of those, so if you do, then you'll just turn on both of them. Okay, so just remember that the limiter is going to be like a hard cutoff. It's going to cut off anything that comes to 0. It's like a Brickwall limiter. So if you were ever wondering why you put the maximizer on your beat and it's still clipping, it's because you didn't have the Brickwall set up, right? So in order to do that, you turn on the limiter button, the 4MS look ahead button, and make sure your attack is on fast. And soft clip will kind of round those peaks so it's not such a hard cutoff if your beat is loud and you got a crazy 808 like me. A key component to how I would set this up is with a meter of some sort. Now I could use one of these meters up here, the big meter, but I don't want to use this meter because a more accurate method of measuring is with LUFS, which is loudness units full scale. So in order to measure it that way, we're going to grab a specific meter. So there's a free one you can use, which should be in the effects, and it's called U-Lean Mastering Meter or something like that. Let's type it in. U-Lean Loudness Meter. There it goes. So I'm just going to drag it in here. I'm going to hold down shift so it doesn't auto connect. There's a way to do it so that you don't have to hold down shift, but that's just the easiest way to explain it to y'all. Cool. So we'll flip over to the back by hitting the tab button. So I actually have no idea what that was, but if you haven't already, make sure you follow my personal Instagram page and the Kickback Couture Instagram page. Let's get it. We'll flip over to the back by hitting the tab button, and instead of having the master out go straight into the audio output, we're going to put the master out into this section first, which is the loudness meter. I'm going to take that right back and put it to where it was before. So it's just going to pass through the loudness meter before it goes to the final output. Flipping back to the front with tab, going to open up our loudness meter. Going to hit keep open so that it doesn't move or anything like that. And let's see how loud it was to begin with. So what I'm looking at right now is the short-term LUFS at any given moment. And that's how loud it is at any given moment. Now integrated is going to be like the average loudness over time. So our average loudness is negative 18.6 LUFS. Now what the hell does this mean? Well, basically, as I said before, it is a loudness measurement. And what you want to do is shoot for the measurements that match the platform that you'll be uploading to. So like SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Music, you know, so and so, such and such. So Spotify, for example, their loudness, their max loudness, they want you to submit your tracks is at negative 14. And I believe Apple Music is around negative 15 and negative 16. You can look up the specifics anytime you want to. Just look up blank insert music platform loudness requirements or whatever, you know, and you'll find it. So I'm going to go for Spotify's, which is negative 14. So I don't want to use the limiter in this case. I'm going to start with the soft clipper. So I'm going to turn that on. Cool. So one thing about this is that it is clipping. So if we don't want it to clip, what are we going to do? Turn on that limiter and that 4 milliseconds look ahead. Now what we're listening to is that our beat isn't distorting too much. When you have big 808s in a trap beat or you have a heavy bass or anything, you want to make sure that it's not overshadowing everything else and that it's not distorting when you start to master it. Okay, I think this is a pretty nice spot here. We got 15.9 integrated, which if we reset it, I'm sure it'll be different because it's averaging over time, even as we've been turning the master up. So we should be good now. We got the input gain set nicely. We got the limiter set so that we don't clip, and we got the soft clipper on so that we round out those edges instead of cutting them off drastically. All right, now what could you do to beef this up and make the master better besides just turning it up? Well, what we can do is come to the effects, and there's other M-class effects like this one that we can use to improve our master. So what we can do is let's just go ahead and drag in a equalizer, and we'll drag in an imager. Cool. And I actually would prefer to use this channel EQ instead of this one because I feel like we can get a better high pass filter with it, and I'll explain that in a second. All right, cool. So let's bypass the stereo imager for now, and let's click on this EQ, and we're gonna name it just to keep everything organized. And we're gonna turn on this high pass filter. What this is gonna do is cut out some of the low end of this beat. Now, the more low end you have, the harder it is to get your track loud, or as loud as the ones you're trying to get it as loud as, if that makes sense. So what we're gonna do is cut out about 30 hertz and below. And it's cool to cut out that much because we can't really hear that much anyways. And even if you can, like I can hear 30 hertz when I listen to it. You know, if you have a sub, like a sub bass speaker, then you can hear 30 hertz and below. But the average, you know, lit playback machine like a cell phone or, you know, even a car might not go as low in that range unless you have a sub. So just keep in mind that if you want a louder master, you're gonna have to sacrifice some of that low end. So we're gonna cut off about 30 hertz, just, you know, simple roll off. And I'll bypass it and turn it back on so you can hear the difference. This is with it off. On. Now, if you didn't hear a difference, then that's great. That is awesome because that's the point. You can't hear it anyway, so you might as well cut it off so you can get a more impactful master and you don't have so much low end, you know, freaking everything out. All right, so for this part, I'm just going to name it, keep everything organized, stereo imager. Right. Now with the stereo imager, what I like to do is keep the keep the bass frequencies mono. So what I mean by that is like, you know, 250, maybe 200 hertz and below. We're keeping the bass frequencies mono so that our master sounds tighter. So this is what that sounds like. Now, honestly, you shouldn't hear too much of a difference unless you're using like a wide bass, a synth bass or something like that with a lot of coarse, in which case all you're doing is narrowing that very low band, which is, as we said, at 203 hertz below. This just makes it tighter. So if it wasn't like this, and let's say we made it wider, it would make your mix sound a little crazy. And you can see how that bass sounds less solid. So that's what I mean by tighter. If you have a wider bass, it might be great for the mix, but for the master, you're just going to take those very low frequencies and make them tighter so that it sounds better in any given system. Okay, so if you're in a club and there's a bunch of sub basses everywhere, you want everything to be tight and not sound crazy and like it did when it was wide, essentially. Okay, so just remember that part. If you don't understand, then just drop a question. I don't want to get too deep in it to confuse everybody. I kind of want to keep it simple for now. Now, as far as everything above 203 hertz, we're actually going to turn the width up a little bit and add some wideness to this. Okay, cool. So let's listen to everything without what we did. That was before, and this is after. And that is a sizable difference, obviously, outside of it just being louder. You know, you can hear that it's wider and the low end sounds tighter. So that's the most basic mastering chain you can set up. And again, this U-Lane loudness meter is free. Go ahead and grab that. Now, I do plan on doing some more intricate mastering tutorials and such, just so you can get the hang of how to master different types of beats. So with that being said, let me know what you would like to see in the comments. Definitely don't forget to like that, like button, click on it for me, whatever you're supposed to do that for me. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe and follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Those are my hubs outside of this platform. All right, it's all culture, kickback, and cook up.